bit of admin while we are waiting for some people to get join the stream. Got a new track out this week on Deep Palmer, which is called Get Together. It's kind of like a fun, housey kind of thing, but also quite chunky and been going down pretty well in the club. Cool. So hopefully some of you enjoy that. I'll drop a link in the chat for anyone who wants it. But I also wanted to bring some attention to one of our regular guys, Marcel, Unknown Vibes, who just dropped his first EP. His first release was with Steve Kelly, a collaboration on Steve Kelly's label Celestial, and Marcel's just dropped his first solo EP on Serrano's Kitchen, so big up for that. So really good stuff. Go support that. Yeah, he's been pushing himself really hard to get his music. I mean, the dude's only been producing for 2 years. Marcel, drop it in the chat. How long have you been producing? Like 2 years? It's crazy. He's been working really hard at it, and it's amazing to see. And I don't know. I can't take all the credit for these streams, but if you kind of look back, he's been pretty consistently dropping music to get feedback. I mean, almost every time. I'm not sure. Does he have Marcel, do you have one this time? Yes. There you go. No days off. All right, guys, let's jump into it, eh? I just wanted to pinpoint that because I thought it was pretty dope to see. Okay, so first track is Move by don't know who. Didn't put their name in the track. Let's have a listen. Matt's Golf. You can send a track. If there's time before the stream ends, then we'll check it out. All right, so I think this is a real vibe. I think with a few improvements, it could be an absolute bomb. The bass line's cool, the synths are cool, that vocal's really catchy and interesting. The vocal could be a little bit louder, I think. I think the drums could be a bit more interesting, and like they're pretty samey the whole way through. I just feel like there could be something a little bit more interesting going on with the drums. Like what I aim for with my tracks, I mean, it's not easy to achieve, and I don't achieve it every time, but I want my drums I want someone to be able to like go, oh, that's that track, when just the drums are playing, you know? And if you can kind of get it, if you can get your drum, it doesn't mean they have to be complicated. It's just about kind of creating hooks in the drums, or like recognizable things in the drums. And then if you've kind of got that, and then a solid vocal and some solid synths, which you do have here, you've got a solid bass line, then I think you're really onto a winner. So I think you could just improve the drums a bit. Also, this breakdown is just it's a bit lackluster. It kind of, I think because some of the elements are quite quiet, like it kind of comes from the groove here. I'm just trying to imagine this in a club, and it's like there could be a lot of tension, but something needs to happen, right? So if this is going to happen here, then it needs to really like have some kind of shift up, some drama, right? I'm often saying this to people, you need to work some drama into your tracks, excite people, surprise them. That's cool, but it's kind of going down quite a bit. Then I see that makes a kind of moment. But then you're going to need to start ramping things up again, or and it's kind of like you've just got the same drums filtered, the same groove kind of filtered. There's not really much excitement happening in the drums. So in the break. So just check out some references, get some ideas, try and do something different, try and push yourself and make something kind of interesting happen here. And then I think this will be a banger. What do we got going on here, Carl? I see. Just download permissions. I'll try and grab it, Carl. Billy, this is your track, is it? Really good stuff, man. I mean, you can kind of, like Alec's track here, the drums just have a little bit more detail. I don't know how to explain it, but they sound a little bit more pro, even from just like listening to one bar. They're just a bit wider, a bit warmer. There's a bit more depth going on with them. I mean, obviously it's a slightly different style, but I don't know. Yeah. One thing that you could try is, sorry, Alec, I've gone back to the other track before. There's the benefit of being first, I guess. One thing that you can try is like grab a bunch of reference tracks, load them up into live, and then mute your drums and play the drums of some reference tracks along, so you can get an idea, not to copy them or sample them necessarily, but just get an idea of like some different things that might work, and then go in that direction. So yeah. Sounds cool. Sounds like someone's been referencing some Gorge tracks. So this is really good. I think one critique is that a lot of the elements have quite a bit of reverb on them, and which it sounds cool. It's making the track sound quite deep, and I guess that's the vibe you're going for. But I feel like the reverb could be reined back a little bit. It might just be a taste, but it's going to make some of the elements sound a bit more punchy. And then some of these like kind of plucky synths, I think you could maybe get a little bit more movement on them, just a little bit of automation. And then with your drums, it's a cool like basic groove, but it's pretty much just the same thing happening the whole way through the track. So it would be nice to just, you know, have a section where you take out the open hat or something, or you know, maybe take out some of the hats and add in a shaker or a tambourine, or add in a ride, or just change it up, or get some kind of like percussion groove in there or something in some section, some claves, something just to add a little bit more spice in the drums. But other than that, I mean, it's a really solid track. It's got a great vibe. I think you've done really well, man. Okay, Simon, I'm going to try and find your track, mate. If that's my fault, I apologize. All right, so this is like, up until you get to this break, it's like you've got something interesting going on here for sure. The drums are a bit boring, and this is really slow going. Like, it takes a long time to get to the point, I would say. The vocal's very loud in the break. It's also been used in one of Nick Curly's biggest tracks of the last couple of years. So there's that. I mean, there's a really good vibe in here, but it's not quite developing. That vocal's so loud. So it sounds like you've got some different bits in there than Nick Curly used. So go search Nick Curly Skyfall on Beatport and try and work the vocals differently than he's used them. You know, that sounds like you've got a different bit in here that's not used in the Nick Curly track. Let me be a new vice man. She like designer and champagne. Oh no,
been stolen for weeks. The stars are pretty when the sky falls. I don't know if it's me that you need. You miss me here, now I will pick up your call. It's been falling.
I mean, yeah, so it's cool. I think the mix needs a lot of work. The drums could be cooler. The vocal's really loud. I would switch up the vocal. You've got some really cool elements. This ARP that you've brought in, it's cool, but it really pushes it in quite a trancey direction. Whereas I felt before that came in, it was kind of like a cool underground groovy vibe. But it really pushes it in this kind of like trancey, melodic techno progressive kind of direction. All right. Okay, so Wilson Watts. Simon, I think it was. I did miss your track. I don't know what happened there. I think I went to download it and the download failed or something like that. Apologies for that. Rizla, I'll check that out if I can have a minute, bro. You know, it's quite distracting when I'm trying to give other people feedback, so it's really on the people who send the tracks to make sure that the downloads and stuff are enabled and the links are working properly. I make sure that I write that every single time in the post, and I make a point of pointing out that some people didn't get their tracks through because of that every single stream. So guys, it's up to you to do it properly. Very cool. I really like this. It's got a really nice vibe. That vocal, it's like a very cool, understated hook. You've done everything like, yeah, it's got a really cool vibe. I feel like it takes a little while to get into it. there's something feels a little bit off at the start. I think it's just something to do with the way the hats and stuff are interacting with one another. It sounds better when everything's kind of in here. But again, like going back to what I said before on some of the previous tracks, is like if you can kind of get some hooks into your drums, like just even like the way that your hi-hats interact, if they're kind of like creating some kind of rhythm that just sounds pleasing to the ear rather than just happening, then that's always like a bonus. That's kind of how you get things to the next level without it's not necessarily about adding more, it's about doing more with the bits that you've already got there, so I think if you can kind of work that through every process of every part of your track, like trying to create hooks. And I think with I think there should be a point where some of your synths get a bit more automation, maybe opening up the cutoff a bit. Again, like you could switch up some sections with the drums. Have like, it doesn't have to be crazy. You have like an A, B, and C section where there's some different elements in there. Maybe using a high shaker instead of the hi-hat, or just switching it up. Helps to just keep the track kind of turning over and sounding like it's progressing. Do I feedback for any genre? I do my best. I can give you feedback on the mix of your EDM track. I'm not a huge fan of EDM, so my opinion is probably not going to be that helpful for you, or my taste is not going to be that helpful for you. I can kind of try and tell you where things are working or not. I try to be as impartial as possible, but obviously taste for anyone giving feedback on anything plays a role, and generally EDM is not to my taste. Very nice vibe right from the start. I think you need to turn up the kick in this. It's like your hats and stuff are quite loud, your bass is quite loud, and it's kind of, the kick is a bit lost, and it's making the track feel very like almost downbeaty kind of. Yeah, I think the mix in this is a bit all over the place. There's some really cool sounds and stuff happening, but you're also kind of like, you're like, as it progresses, you're adding more sounds, but not taking anything away. Which, I mean, yeah. So when you're kind of like bringing in a new sound that's coming into focus in the track, it's a good opportunity to take something else out. The benefit of taking something else out is that you can bring it back in and have the same effect of it. Of like bringing in something new, but you're just using the elements that you've already got better, and it has this kind of consistency and cohesiveness through the track because it's already been in the track. People are already used to hearing it, so it sounds very satisfying if it comes back. Yeah, it's this kind of, by this point, it sounds a little bit confused. Nice chords in the break, by the way. But it sounds like you're trying to do, almost trying to do too much. Like it sounds initially like a kind of organic house type thing. And then by now it's starting to sound like organic house, melodic techno, kind of like some of the sounds just aren't really meshing together well. So I think I would go through a process of like trying to refine the elements, taking out things that aren't really adding value. It definitely needs a solid mixdown. There's a couple of videos on my channel to help you get started with that, or you can email me if you want me to mix it. Yeah. So, but like solid vibe, and I really liked the kind of atmosphere that you built from the start. Evan Duthie, Fear. Okay, so this is like the beat and stuff sounds good from the start. This bass, I think I said something similar last time about your bass. You were using a similar kind of bass. I've actually got a video dropping next week about different respaces, which might be helpful for you in this. I just feel like the bass that you're using there is a little bit static. It's quite solid. It's taking up quite a lot of space, but not really adding a lot of interest. I think so. I feel like there's this. That's like a cool little hook that you could bring in from the start. You know, and just have that, so you could pull back a few drums a little bit, have that kind of thing in there. I find it's always nice to have some kind of melodic element or something like that in from the start as well. And then you could kind of bring in that bass a little bit later. I would definitely try and get the bass sounding a bit more interesting. Something that's really good to do in respaces is, or like why a respace is such a great sounding bass, is because it has like a lot of width in it, but then there's ways to control the sub so that you have a kind of like mono sub and a wide, phasey, interesting, moving sound in the kind of low mids. You could also have another like low pad layer or chord layer or something that's like following the bass. Maybe you have that coming in. I would definitely get some low percussion, some toms or something, creating a bit of groove in the low end, because the kick's like really heavy and then the bass is there, it doesn't have a lot of movement. So some toms or something, playing something interesting in the low end is going to just create a bit more groove in the low end. It might even be that the kick is not right for this, because everything is, to me, is pointing towards it being kind of like deep melodic progressive kind of sound, and then the kick is a bit more like chunky tech house, like something that Harry Romero or something would do. You've got some toms there. Am I? Oh shit, I'm looking at the wrong track. Sorry about that, I was looking at the waveform from the track above it. I think it sounds like this, when this ARP comes a little bit louder here, I think it really helps giving some drive on the track. So those toms that you've brought in are cool. They definitely add to the groove, but they're almost like working like a snare roll or something like that. So I think if you have something that's a bit more like rolling and grooving and kind of pushing the track along, and then you could also have those as well, and it's going to add a bit more energy. Okay, we're going to have to start speeding things up, or we're going to be here all day, all night. This bass is really cool, but I feel like it's just a touch too open. what I think you could probably just pull the cutoff back and keep the envelope modulation the same, and then it will like kind of poke through and be audible, but not, the sustain will be a little bit more closed. I think that could work, because it's really cool. It's got this kind of like, I don't know, it's a cool sound, but I think it's just taking up a little bit too much space at the moment, and because it's playing quite frequently, it might be it's just kind of a bit distracting from everything else. It's kind of taking up too much space. Nice. I like the way that you've added on that other melodic layer to the bass. This like little vocal thing that's kind of come in the background, I think it's cool and it works with the vibe. But maybe you could use it a little more sparingly, rather, because it works with the vibe but doesn't quite work with the groove. So it would be cool to have it like come in a little bit and then out a little bit, but having it there as a constant loop, I think, doesn't really roll with the rest of the track. In the break here, it sounds actually pretty cool. So maybe you could even just bring it in right here. Those toms are sounding really cool. Is it toms or snares sounding really cool with the fills, adding some kind of like additional interest and action in the break.
Full of fight, ignorance and greed.
So these two vocals are fighting for space now. So I think you want the spoken word vocal to be a little bit more up in volume. Maybe add some limiting to it so that it's just like really solid, consistent volume.
Ignorance and greed, but right here on the dance floor, the rhythm's all you need.
So yeah, you could have this like vocal chop coming in here. Maybe start adding some effects to get it increasing in intensity here, some like delay and reverb or something. And then here, when the spoken word vocal comes in, you let the feedback go, but you stop playing the dry sound. So it's kind of there, atmospheric, while this spoken word vocal comes in. And then maybe here, where you bring in the beat again, you could bring in that vocal again or something like that. Or maybe even save it, or you could filter it up or something like that. Just use it to create more excitement in the break.
It's all you need. The rhythm's all you need. The rhythm's all you need.
When you hear the rhythm, start to move. We're here for having a good time.
really solid. You got a lot of reverb on your kick or something? It sounds like you've got maybe a top kick that's got a lot of reverb on it or something. It sounds quite weird.
Done before. Yeah.
It sounds, it's really putting me off. Their vocal should be a bit louder, I think. It sounds like maybe you've EQ'd out quite a bit of the mid-range frequencies as well. It sounds quite thin. Yeah, that vocal really needs to be pumped up in volume a bit. It's kind of, I think it could be really cool through the break, but at the moment it just feels a little bit lost. I really like how you've kind of mixed in some varied sounds that they all work together pretty well, but they're not necessarily what you would expect to be together. It sounds like there's some kind of influences from drum and bass and stuff. I feel like for how loud it is, your hats and stuff could probably be a bit louder. See, that adds a lot of energy and drive to the track, I feel like. You've also got like this quite open snare, which might sound a bit cooler if it was a bit more tight. I don't know, I get the feeling that this is inspired by like Hot Creations kind of vibes. I think if you listen to a lot of the stuff that they're releasing, you'll notice they've got quite short, snappy claps and snares. It sounds like this atmosphere you've got here has got sidechain on it, and the kick is not playing. So just try to avoid that. It sounds a bit weird. It kind of, I feel like it sounds a little bit amateur. Yeah, I feel like this main break, it's I mean it's fine, but it's not really like creating this really like intense tension and release, which I feel like the track could do with. There's also some kind of like timing issues. Like it's probably better if you just leave these drums to stop at the end of this bass fill thing and then just leave it. Maybe it's a matter of just having that bass fill happen a little bit closer to the drop so that it ends when the drums end. It's you have done some good stuff where you've like switched up the drums, taken things in and out, which really helps to add interest to the track. Randall Dean, Rising. So I think you made a switch up of your track. I hope I got the right one here. It kind of felt like it was building up for something to happen, not like you were building up for a break. So it kind of felt like the bass should drop there. So you're kind of switching up the rhythms and melodies and stuff. I feel like it's just it needs to be simplified a little bit. But so you've got, if I just try to break it down a wee bit, I think like you've got this cool bass line, which is clearly like you're intending to be a main focal point of the track. It's really loud and quite in your face. And it feels like the other elements are kind of like supporting elements, but then there's it feels like it needs something else, like whether it's a vocal or something or some kind of riff. You said something about the saxophone. Like, I feel like, you could have some kind of, I don't know, just something that grab your attention a bit more. It really feels like a sketch at the moment that is waiting for a vocal or a, like you said, a saxophone. Like, it could be some kind of sax riff or something that's a bit more of a hook. It doesn't really feel like it's got a hook to me at the moment. A hook can be, there are tracks that the hook is basically the groove kind of thing, but it feels like there's something, like it needs to be developed further, and I think that development needs to be focused around creating a hook, thinking like what's the point of the track, what's the memorable thing of the track, because it feels like a good solid backing track at the moment, but it needs something to be the main, to kind of carry it. It's cool so far, but I feel like I'm used to hearing like more interesting groovy drums in a downpour track. I mean, it's really like what it feels like to me here is that it's I think that the track is really cool, but the drums aren't quite grabbing me. I've listened to a lot of downpour tracks now, and I think that I know sometimes you go for a bit more of a minimal vibe, and sometimes a bit more of a kind of driving deep housey kind of vibe, and this feels like the track feels like it should be a bit more driving, and the drums feel like you're trying to make it a bit more stripped back. Like it kind of feels like you've taken two of your tracks and put them together and they're not quite working. That's my feeling anyway. Technically the track seems really good. It's got some cool, interesting elements. Yeah, it's really well produced as always. But I think, I just feel like you could try switching up the drums a bit. Okay, Unknown Vibes, what have you got for us today? really good so far. I feel like this like new mid bass doom doom sound needs something in the kind of 4 or 8 bar loop to respond to it, because it's quite a strong element. Also, like you've got this synth that comes in, filters in from the start. It's got quite a lot of delay and stuff on it. I feel like maybe you could increase that delay and reverb and stuff up to here. And then when these new elements come in, you could like pull it back a bit, and then you can use that throughout the track to create tension and release. But by bringing it back and making it a little tighter, it's going to leave a bit more space for the new elements. I've got a different idea for the vocal. So you've got this which is really cool, works really well with the groove, and creates like a nice contrast between some of the aggressiveness and darkness of the other synths. So I think that's really cool. It's crazy. I would just have it do something like, it's crazy how you hear before the drop. So it's like, it kind of feels like something's going to happen. It's crazy how you, and then back to the drop. So you could have it, just have the play the first part, it's crazy how you got me, or something like that. And just tease it a bit more. I feel like something you're going to add more vocal, when I think you could probably add less. Because it's not really like rolling with the groove of the track. It's like the track's quite energetic and the vocal's quite chilled. So I think you need to use it in the right moments, in the right way, to maintain the energy of the track, if that makes sense. So this will be the perfect place to just play it in full like that.
It's crazy.
So you could probably even repeat the vocal here.
It's crazy how you got me now.
And then repeat it again here.
It's crazy.
And these synths that are coming in, right? Get them big. I think they should be leading the build up here. So you can get them like quite open, quite big, get some delay and reverb on them, and then when it drops, you kind of bring it back and make them more tight. Really cool sound on the drop there. there's the extra vocal that I thought was going to come. Yeah, so this is really solid, dude. I think it's just a matter of working the arrangement a little bit and then adding a bit more intensity with some of the synths, kind of playing with the tension and release caused by some of those synths. I think we're doing a session together next week or something, so maybe we can work on this. Well, hopefully you can work on it a bit before then and we can revisit it. But really, really solid stuff, heading in a really good direction. Agree, Adria, agree. Modulation and movement is key. I mean, this is really solid stuff, as expected from Houston. He's a bit of a beast. I'm not sure that these like chord stabs are working for the benefit of the track. They sound super cool here in the break. And this like harp that's going around in the background is kind of like a bit of a like acid kind of sound, is really cool. I think I feel like the dun stab things are kind of working against the groove that you've created here. Maybe just simplify them, like not have the dun dun, like the dun dun dun, something like that. Don't, something like that. I don't know. I feel like that it's a bit too much to have over here, and it's kind of making the groove feel more robotic than it does without them. But as I said, I really like them in the break here. So maybe you could have 2 sections where it switches it up a little bit. And it sounds really cool now that you've brought in this other little high frequency thing to kind of play off them. So really solid. I think just trying to figure out what's going on with those so that you don't lose the groove of the tracks. So the groove of the groove that you'd created before those stabs came in. Joe Lana, another regular to the streams. I had an interesting conversation with Joe this week. He told me about an experience he had sending in some music to, I think it was like Rawsome Records. They were doing like a live stream feedback, and there's like a dude who's like prowling around in there, like asking people to send their tracks through to him because he wants to play them or some shit. And then he's like stealing them and releasing them on Beatport, which is fucking wild. So just, be careful out there, guys. And I don't know, when people do this kind of shit, you got to out them. You've got to like say, yo, this fucking idiot tried to steal my shit, because it makes them, that's the only way that they'll stop. If they keep getting away with it and people just like don't do anything about it, then why would they stop? I think that like organ sound needs a little bit more beef to it, maybe like a little bit louder and a little bit of distortion or something to like saturation to bring it up in the mix. Let me grab a decapitator here. Obviously I'm doing it to the whole mix, but and then without it. I mean, it something. It needs something. It needs to be a bit bigger, especially there where it's kind of playing alone. Another layer. So instead of so what you could do, instead of having like 2 layers and a layer that you bring in later, if you're going to do it like you do it at the start here, you could have the first layer there, but filtered down instead. And then when that plays like alone, you can let through a bit more and then bring it back. there's a bit much dynamics in that vocal. What I would recommend is going through and like chopping each phrase and just using the clip gain like this to adjust each word so that they're more consistent, then adding some compression and then adding some limiting, because it just, like, some of the words are disappearing and then some of them are just really jumping out. Some nice little hooks and stuff going on here with that, what do you call it, clavinet kind of sound. To be honest, I feel like the track is, that spoken word vocal is letting the track down a little bit. I feel like, yeah, it's tough. You kind of, it's I think the right thing to be there, but just this particular version of that is not really, it feels like the weak point of the track to me. So I mean, what you could do with the vocal is try some of the processing that I was suggesting before, maybe pitching it down a little bit, or pitching down, adding another layer underneath. You could look at using that Audemy website that I did a video on a couple of weeks ago or a month ago. So you could have it kind of like resung by AI and maybe get some different layers, try some different vocal tones, or you could find a different sample, or you could try and contact a vocalist and get something original to go in there, because the track's really cool. I think just as it is, that vocal's just not really, it should be elevating the track, and it feels like it's bringing it down a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to post this guy in the chat. This is the guy who's apparently ripping people off. This is allegedly. I don't have any proof of this, but apparently that's what's happening. So just watch out. DJ Rendo is apparently stealing people's tracks and releasing them as his own. Not cool. We do not support that here. So I think there's a couple of things going on here. Initially, it feels maybe it's just the hats are a little bit too dull. Yeah, so I think if the hats were a bit brighter, that might be cool. And then you kind of whack in the bass line and the synth riff. So I think what you could do to have much better effect and use your elements more effectively in the track is, I know I'm already telling you how to redo the track from before we've even got to the meat and potatoes of it, but leave the bass line out until you get to here. This riff that comes in, like if you kind of think about it in two parts, and it's like it's going do 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 do. Just have like the last half of it playing or something as you're like filtering it in here. Then when you get to this break, you can play the whole riff, have it filtering it in more, and then when you get here, you drop in the bass line, and it's just going to kind of bring everything in a bit more smoothly. You're going to be able to work that synth a bit more. Maybe you, in the break here, you can open up the cutoff, add some delay and reverb and stuff, and then when you have it here and the bass line drops, you can bring that all back and make it more tight again, and then you've got the opportunity to use it again in the same way to work it. Okay, let's see how this develops. Okay. Okay, so what's happening here is you're adding in this arpeggiator that's also happening at in the same frequency, or like the same area in the frequency spectrum as these like stabs that you've got, or this riff that you've got here. So it's just masking each other and kind of creating something a bit chaotic. So it also sounds like they're both quite similar patches or similar sound sources, but it basically sounds like they're some kind of sawtooth derivative. But there's just a lot going on here. I think this kind of acidy arpeggio thing is really cool. I would say that's like quite an interesting element for the track. So I would suggest that you kind of prioritize that. Yeah, you know, maybe it could work with having these, like this riff as like a piano, or some other kind of sound that's quite differentiated from that. I think that could work, but I think there's some decision making to be done here. Like, what's the key element of your track, and then you need to prioritize that. But at the moment, it sounds like you've kind of got two things that you want to be the main star of the show, and they're basically fighting with each other for space and attention. So you need to create some kind of separation somehow with them. Yeah. Ooh. Really solid, Fernando. This is sounding dope, man. This House Is My Heart vocal, I feel like you could have it a bit more dry. Maybe try pitching it down a little bit, or it's got a lot of reverb on it by the sounds of it, and so does some of the synths and stuff that you've got going on. I feel like like there needs to be some contrast, some separation between the elements. If everything has a lot of reverb, then the track just sounds like a bit washy and a bit over the top, but or a bit lacking definition, let's say. So I think that vocal could be separated from those pads and all that kind of like washy stuff that you've got a bit better. This second vocal that comes in,
It's a feeling, energy with never House is my life.
also, hang on, let me just hear this again.
House is my life. House is my life. House is my life. House is my life.
Yeah, so I feel like that House Is My Heart bit could just be a bit tighter, a little bit more in front. Maybe try like either pitching it down one semitone or using Little Alter Boy to pitch it down, to pitch the formant down a little bit. Maybe making it a bit more mono. Just making it a bit more solid somehow. Taking away some of the reverb.
House is my life. House is my life.
Maybe it's also slightly warped. It could be warped slightly better to go with the groove.
It's a feeling, energy that never dies. House is my life. House is my life.
I mean, this is, I think, saying House Is My Life, not House Is My Heart, obviously by the track name. I think this is like definitely a standout track that you've sent me. This is really good. So I think it's worth trying to get that vocal to just fucking nail it in the track. This is like really, really, really solid stuff, man.
House is my life.
I didn't really notice it before, but I think you notice it more here when the pads and stuff aren't as. What's happened? I'm not sure what's changed, but maybe the bass line could be like 1 or 2 dBs, or 2 or 3 dBs, 1 to 3 dBs louder. Not much, but just a little bit more intensity. But really solid stuff, man. Definitely worth kind of fine tuning. It's just the small details to kind of take that from, I don't know, a 7 to an 8.5. By the way, on my rating scale, a 7 is really good. I think too many people use like rating scales where they're pretty much only going from 6 to 10, you know? All right. I think there's like I think the arrangement on this needs some work. Like, it's kind of like it starts off with quite a lot, but kind of stripped. Maybe you could bring in things in a different order, basically, to give the track a bit more intensity. It kind of feels like things just kind of come in and until like here, it feels like it's a bit kind of meandering. You've got these like nice atmospheric background noises and stuff like that, but there's not really a hook or something to make it unique or memorable or standing out. And then in here you bring in this riff, which is a lot more unique and interesting and original, but it takes 3.5 minutes to even hear it in the track, you know. And then you add some like chord changes and stuff, and like the chord changes are even happening in the outro, which is probably not a great thing. You probably want to simplify it more in this section, but I think there just needs to be a bit more interest in the rest of the track before it gets to this part, right? Whether that's having like an A and B lead element, or introducing this in a different way and then taking it away, or something like that. Something that, like, let's say if I'm using a vocal as a lead element in my track, I'll often introduce it quite early on, but then not play the full thing, or use it in a different way, whether it's with some vocal chops or create some kind of effect sounds out of it, using maybe just 1 or 2 words from it with some delay on it, so that it introduces it creates some excitement and also a bit of like tension as to what's going on with that vocal, Obviously you don't have a vocal, so it would be about doing that with some synths or something like that, and then revealing it later in the track. So a couple of people have sent in tracks while the stream's been going. One attached to an email, which it gets instantly deleted, and one does not have download enabled. So I can't, if you don't follow the instructions, I can't listen to your tracks, guys. Okay, so I think the main issue here is that riff that you've got, which is like the main element of your track, gets a bit boring. What you could do to try and just instantly make it more interesting is like play half of it with one synth and half of it with another synth, and then it's already going to take it to like be two elements which have contrast and separation from each other, and gives it some kind of call and response. You could also try layering it. You could have it as it is and then layer half of it with one synth and half of it with another. Get some automation going on, get some effects going on, some like delay and reverb and that kind of thing. But just if you're going to have that as like the main focus of your track, you really want to work with it and use it to create tension, release, drama. But I think you could also have a couple of supporting elements in here, with some synths, like, you know, maybe something on the downbeat every 2 bars or something like that. That's just going to help to create a little bit more length to your loop, to your melodic loop. I do not stream every Sunday, no. I stream like once a month, normally at the start or end of the month. But for the last few months, it's been a bit chaotic. I've been touring quite a lot, so I've been doing it when I can. But yeah, normally once a month. Nice bass.
Meditation. For those of you who may be experiencing some worry or some stress.
Okay, so there where it went, or some stress, I think you could like really make a bit more of an emphasis on that. Like what I would do is use something like Tantra and just record the stress and get some like kind of glitchy sounds, maybe layer it underneath. So it's like stress and then put some delay or reverb on it. So it's like experiencing some worry or some stress, like experiencing some worry or some stress, I don't know, something crazy, like, you know, it's just kind of adding a bit of emphasis, doubling down on that as like a theme.
Or some stress. Or some insomnia. Or for those of you hanging out in your body, move into this meditation. Then we can start to focus on what's going on in your mind.
Same there, like I think this is so far this is really, really fire. It's really good. But I think you can use this vocal a little bit more creatively with just some interesting production and editing on it.
In your mind.
My mind.
In your mind.
I think your open hat's a little bit loud, maybe bring it down by a couple of dBs. A wee bit of clipping to shave off some of the unnecessary transient on it, and your kick could probably be like 2 dBs louder.
That I have found. Affirm to yourself. As many times as it takes.
Now that I've added a bit of limiting to kind of increase the loudness a wee bit, I can hear the vocal's got quite a bit of sibilance in it, so it needs a little bit of de-essing, I think. Or if you've got something like Soothe, you could try that.
Nothing else that you need to be doing
Or both.
right now. Meditation.
Yeah, this is really fire. There's just, like I said, a few little bits and pieces to be fixed up, but that's sick. Just fix them up, fix up the mix a wee bit. And I think you could just squeeze another 20% out of that vocal using it a bit more creatively. There's some really cool bits in here where you're kind of using the vocal, and then I liked it here before the break where you didn't have the vocal, you know, switching it up. Really good. That's definitely, I mean, there's been some serious fire tracks today, but that is, yeah, I can see that getting, it could probably get signed as it is, but I think if you put in the effort to push it, squeeze a bit more juice out of it, then it could be big. I think the kick is wrong for this track, or it's just got a bit too much knock on it. Hat's about 3 dBs too loud. That synth sounds really cool, but it could probably use a layer underneath or something like that. It feels like a little bit top heavy. And maybe pull in the cutoff a little bit on it. Nice interplay with this kind of call and response with the synths now.
As we dance to a beat that seems out of time, to the one you feel in the metronome of your mind. Does it offend you that our rhythm looks strange, or causes your thinking to be rearranged? That you would understand this beat to which we dance. Ask yourself, can you dance to my beat? So as you struggle to find the feel with your feet, ask yourself, can you really dance to my beat?
So here, where you've got this I think you've missed a great opportunity here, because you're like bringing in the snare fill, and you've got this vocal playing at the same time, so they're kind of like competing for that attention.
So as you struggle to find the feel with your feet, ask yourself, can you really dance?
And then stop it, so just the words "to my beat" play, and then drop it.
Can you really dance to my beat?
And drop with the open hi-hat, because it feels a bit like floaty here. I mean, if you wanted to drop without the open hi-hat, you could also try taking out the clap and adding like a 16th hat. That's going to give it some drive and stuff, but it feels like you've lost a bit of the energy there. Yeah, really cool. I think you could. It just needs to be tightened up a bit. Some stuff to do with the mix, and some stuff to do with just like seizing those little opportunities to, like I was kind of explaining with the drop there. Like, just to have that vocal isolated is going to add a bit more drama and a bit more of a kind of wow moment, and that. By taking away all of the elements except for the vocal, it emphasizes the vocal and then emphasizes the drop. So yeah, I think there's some really good potential there. Obviously, it's a sample on the acapella, so you could get it resung and release it as a cover. So yeah, there's obviously that, but first of all, I think just get it really solid before you even worry about how to sort the vocal. What's happened there? I think your bass line's a bit loud. You can hear, like, I've added some limiting to bring it up to a kind of similar loudness to what a mastered track would be, and you can hear that it's like it's creating a bit of distortion with the combination of the kick and the bass, and the bass is kind of like the kick and the bass are about equal volumes, so it doesn't create that groove. It kind of makes it feel a little bit more robotic, which is not the right feel for the track. I don't think. So bring the bass down by, I don't know, 2-3 dB, I think, at least. I would say you want the if there's not too much dynamics on the bass, I think the bass should be about 5 dB lower than the kick in a track like this. Peak volume. Okay, so like nice enough break, but just from a kind of functional standpoint, this feels like more like a warm-up track or a track that someone's going to play in like an open ear or something like that. So to have like a big empty moment like that where there's not something like dramatic or interesting happening, it just creates a bit of like awkwardness. Like imagine you go to an open air party, it's like 4 PM on a Saturday, it's kind of like warm up time, someone's playing this, it's like a cool groove, which it really is, it's got a nice vibe to it, nice cool groove. And then, but you know, no one's like wasted, there's not like loads of lights and smoke machines and shit going, it's not like peak time anything, everyone's just kind of warming up, right? And then this happens. Like it's interesting stuff, interesting sounds, but I feel like it's just a bit too much, especially here when it's going to get to be, what's that, 1 minute of emptiness. it just kind of, I can picture it. I've played tracks like this, and I've been at clubs when tracks like this have been played in those kind of situations, and the dance floor just gets a bit kind of awkward and people don't really know what to do. So yeah, I think you need to keep a bit more of this groove going through these parts. Other than that, really, really nice track, and I think it's basically, just these breakdowns. So you need to kind of think about how can you keep some interest, keep the groove going through the breakdowns a bit, and make them a little bit more interesting, create a little bit of tension and release. And then I think you're onto a winner here. Obviously, as I said, there's some mixdown issues, but that's secondary to like songwriting and arrangement and that kind of thing. I think that snare wants a little bit more reverb. Really nice sound. Works super well with the drums though. Really solid, man. Yeah, okay, maybe just looking at my emails, I don't see a follow-up from you, but maybe there is, saying that you changed it. Anyway, yeah, sorry about that if that's the case. Really, really solid. At the start, I felt like It didn't, yeah, I think from here, from like 1 minute on, it was perfect. I think the intro felt like a little bit clunky, which is not the worst thing in the world, but the like loudness of the snare compared to the other elements. I think maybe you could bring in this like this kind of like mid pluck riff before this like 16th note high frequency thing. Maybe bring in a few more drums. It doesn't really have too many more drums. Maybe some of these shakers or something in the start. Yeah, I don't know. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but really solid work. And this breakdown was really, really, really well executed. Like pretty decent length, 1.5 minutes. Was interesting the whole way through. Created that tension and release. I really liked the way that you kind of like built it down and then built it back up. You didn't overcrowd it too much. Really solid. I think quite possibly one of the best tracks that you've sent in. Okay, 50 Cent AO Technology remix, Miles Mayer. Better be good, pal. Don't know about these like bootleg remixes. Sending them into my stream. Gonna get me copyright claimed, but so this could be judged quite harshly. The kick is way louder than the rest of the drums. Like if I go like this, it's still not really loud enough. Like I kind of need another one up the top here for the hat. The bass is a bit farty sounding. I think it could be cool, but you just maybe with a different sound. The acapella is not warped properly to the beat.
Like an info, the info, I show you where to meet her on the late night till daylight, the club jumping if you want a good time.
Maybe it's warped, but it's not, the timing's not right or something. Something's definitely not right about the vocal. Nice that you're incorporating some other sounds from the original. Why don't you sit down on top of me? How good is Justin Timberlake's voice? It's insane. She won't sit, she won't sit, she won't sit.
She won't side to side, let the ride, side to side, the ride, side. Let's get it, ooh, the ride, side to side, things I do, let the ride. Let's get it, ooh.
Those synth sounds that you're using in the build up there sound really kind of weak, amateur. I don't know, probably better without them, to be honest. From side to side, let the ride. So check out my on my channel. There's a couple of basic. I've got a whole playlist called Mixing I think it's called Mixing, or Mixdown Tips. But there's some really basic stuff in there about leveling your kick and bass, and then leveling the rest of your elements to the kick and bass. So I think for the first thing that you need to sort out here is that the kind of basic elements of the track some of the volume balance is just completely off, like the open hi-hat and the clap and stuff compared to the kick. The bass sound needs to be switched up, something a bit cooler. If you're going to make a remix of a track, especially a well-known track, you need to have the integrity of the vocal there. So basically get the original, bring it into live, and line them up. So it's not going to sound right because the original is probably like 95 BPM or something like that. But get it lined up so that the vocal is playing in the same timing as it would be in the original, and then have that playing over your track. Because at the moment it feels like you've kind of pulled some stuff onto the one, but so it's like kind of happening on the downbeat. There's something happening on the downbeat, but then everything else is just kind of like floating. Love that groove instantly. Big fan. Congas, bongos. That's a fucking jam, man. That's so good. Send it out as a demo. There's, I think I could. There's some sounds in there that I don't particularly like, or that I think could be improved, but I think that's just taste. I don't know. I mean, it could be changed a little bit to the point where I'd like play that in every set, but I don't think changing it to my taste is going to benefit you getting it signed to a cool label or something. I think that's great. Send it out. Whoops. So, James Clark, you've resent your track, mate, or a different track or something, and you still haven't turned on downloads. I don't think we're going to be able to get to listen to your track. I'm sorry, bro. I think it's, it it's just a little bit samey. It's like what you've got there is cool, but I don't know, you could bring in like another shaker or something, like when it's kind of, you know, kind of, I think you need to level up there. And, you know, now we're heading towards 1.5 minutes and it still sounds like kind of it could be the first 30 seconds. I think there just needs to be a little bit more going on in the drums and the high end. Really nice pads that you've got. It feels like I really like this kind of chord riff that you've got going on, but it feels like it's kind of a bit dominant in the track and there's not much else happening. Like in terms of the frequencies in the track, like the hats and stuff aren't too quiet, but they feel too quiet because that kind of low mid kind of riff is so dominant. Like I feel like that's getting too, like the hats are getting too loud, but that feels more balanced to me. So maybe it's that. But then if you pull that out, then the track feels empty. So I don't know. Maybe you need some more elements that play off that kind of play around this kind of 1 to 4K kind of area. Like generally I would say that's like the personality of the track. So let's see what's going on in there. Not much going on in there. Like that's kind of where the human voice, or the fundamental audibility of the human voice sits. And that's kind of what our brains are tuned to listen for. So if you notice, like most of the elements that are like memorable hooks in tracks, like vocals, guitar riffs, saxophone, piano, when they're in that kind of played in that tonality where they're like the lead sound in a track, they're often happening around here, and you would be able to basically, if I did this filtering, you would be able to hear what that riff was. So maybe you need something in there. see when I pull out some of those frequencies, this track kind of sounds a bit more lively. So maybe it's also just a matter of like playing with the filtering a little bit more, because I think there's something there. The track's really, I like the vibe of it very much. I think all the elements sound like they work together well, but there's just something making it feel not really as interesting as it could. And I think it's to do with the like frequencies. Brian, I can hear your tracks immediately. It's pretty much like, I would say, kind of like the same feedback that I give you on almost every track, which is that everything sounds a little bit too distorted, and that your drums, I feel like, could be tighter and more snappy, and that it feels like there's like a lot going on. Like you've got like a lot of chord change, you've got like a lot of like melodic progressions, you've got the vocal chops. There's just let's say it feels like things could be simplified a little bit. Like often with your tracks, they're kind of like there's a lot of quite significant changes quite frequently. It's kind of like the opposite feedback to what I said to a lot of people earlier in the stream, is that their track sounded too samey all the way through. I feel like often your tracks feel the opposite of that, where they are just kind of constantly switching up and don't have like a consistent groove to them. Yeah. So basically the same feedback that I have given you on other tracks that we've listened to. Very nice vibe from the start. The only thing I feel with this is that maybe the open hat could be a little bit shorter. It's like quite taking up a lot of space. Like I feel like this groove is nicer to listen to than the groove with the open hat, right? So I think the open hat, it could be cool to use it in some parts to like add intensity, but then maybe take it away to let the beat breathe a little bit.
As a teenager, I remember one.
Like it sounds like you're doing here where the vocal is.
As a teenager, I remember not pretty enough to be an actress.
Or maybe even trying a different open hat, like a kind of more thin, bright one, like an 808 open hat or something like that could be cool. Like one of those ones that goes a little bit more like tss, tss. I don't know. I feel like the open hat's taking up too much space and distracting from the rest of the groove.
Millions of people.
Yeah, that's my opinion. Okay, your bass is way too loud. Yeah, it looks like your track has got quite heavy limiting on it, but it's also come out at below. I like. What's this? Yeah, quite weird. I'm lost for words. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. the mix down, like I said, the kick's a bit quiet. I don't really have a point of reference of like, if this was exactly how you envisioned it to be, what it would sound like. There's some cool sound design going on. It's quite erratic. There's a lot of, there's different things happening all the time. The arrangement is quite random for like I don't know, is it supposed to be a club track that a DJ would play? I'm sorry, I'm not sure what more to say about it. It's unique. Nice groove. I like there's some cool detail in the drums. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and make an assumption that you are partway through arranging this, and this is going to be the main break. In which case, so just listening to what's happening here, my thoughts were, looking at the arrangement, I was thinking, if this is like a Spotify edit, and then it needs to be made into an extended mix for Beatport or whatever, I was thinking you're probably going to have a hard time doing that, because it doesn't feel like it feels like there's a lot in it already. So to add more, to create more interest, is going to be difficult, but the elements weren't really lending themselves to being manipulated. I mean, you could do more with this vocal. It's very hidden, especially behind that siren. It's very beat and bass focused, which works as that's cool. But is it cool to listen to in a loop for 5 minutes? I think it needs something else. And it looks to me now that you've started arranging from 0 and you're working your way forward, and now you're going into your main break and you are waiting to figure out what to add. I find that as a really, really difficult way to arrange. I would always suggest that you kind of bring in your elements into your arrangement like this, and you work on this main break first, and then you put in the rest of the arrangement before and after it, because this is kind of like the body of your track, what's happening before and after your main break, and then the other parts of your track should work in reference to that, right? I just find it a much more logical or much more cohesive way to write and arrange. So give that a try. You'll probably, in doing that, you'll probably strip out some of the elements and have kind of less going on here. But let's see. All right, that's going to be it for today. I'll just check again, see if James Clark's enabled his downloads. No. It's 4 times I checked, bro. I'm really trying to listen to your track, but I can't do it if I can't do it. All right, thanks to everyone who sent in their tracks. Thanks to everyone who tuned in and stuck around. And yeah, your house piano rack, I was wondering if you would release it for the standard version of Ableton that uses simpler instead of sampler. I don't think it can work like that, because it's got all the, what do you call it? It's like zone referenced. It's got like multiple samples inside the sampler. So I don't know if that will work. Next time I open up a project with it in, I'll see if I can convert it to a simpler, because there is an option to convert sampler to simpler, and maybe it will work. If it does, then I'll try and chuck it in a project and put it up. All right, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.